When I got out of the organization, I was scared. 16 years old, on my own, didn't know what to do, where to go, anything. I knew I had to get a job, knew I had to get a place to live, knew I had to buy groceries. I knew I had that sense of responsibility. I knew what I had to do, and I did it. I did it running scared. I was out a couple of years before I had the realization that that things just weren't what I was told they were. I was raised to believe that the world was just going to eat me up and spit me out, and then I'd just be begging to go back to the organization. But after a couple of years, I realized there were a lot of nice, funny, wonderful people in the world where they were kind and generous and helpful, and I got more help from them than from anybody in my entire life. I love them dearly to this day. I've known them for close to 40 years now, and they're still my friends. They're really good to me. And my own parents wouldn't help me if I was starving. If I got sick, they weren't there. These people that didn't even know me growing up, that were basically strangers, they helped me when I was sick. Well, a few years later, I met a man, real nice man, had never been a Jehovah's Witness. He grew up Catholic, really nice guy. And 3 years later, we were married. And I was 20 the first time I got married. His family is wonderful. I'm still friends with many of them today. I love them. They're great people, wonderful people. But after a while, we were married for about 7 years, and his drinking got in the way of family life and relationship, and I had to call an end to that because I didn't want my children to grow up scared and fearful because of the arguments and fights that the alcohol had brought on into the relationship, so I ended it. And when I left that relationship, I moved across country. I moved 900 miles south. I didn't know anybody. I had never been there before, really. My closest relative was about 120 miles away. And it's not like I could go to their house on the weekends. I was busy working and everything so much. And I had this drive. Just kept going and going and going and working hard. I was working, 2-3 jobs to support me and my kids, and I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night. I was exhausted, but I kept going and going. And I realized after a while, when I collapsed from exhaustion and wound up in the hospital, the doctor was looking over me, and he says, "You need to quit one of your jobs." And I was like, yeah, right, which job am I supposed to quit? I had kids to take care of, and bills to pay, and groceries to buy, and school supplies, and clothes, and medical bills, and it was like, how in the world can I? How in the world can I quit one of my jobs? What am I going to give up? Groceries? What would I give up? Water? I saw no way of getting by. Finally, somebody told me, I think if you go down, you can get food stamps. And I was like, really? So I went down there and got that. That was really nice. And I felt bad about doing that even. because I didn't want to, I considered it burdensome on society, because I figured my children were my responsibility, and that's something that I was supposed to be in charge of, and I should support them on my own if I was able. And about that time, I had been told by the doctors that my joints were getting really bad, and that I'd be lucky if I could keep working until I was 40. But during that time of being so exhausted and everything, I had to figure out what I was going to do. Keep working like that, or it was going to kill me, eat me up. And I realized that I was running on adrenaline. Ever since I left my parents' home and I got out into the world that I knew nothing about, I was scared and afraid, and I had so much adrenaline going through me all the time that it kept me going. It kept me going. It kept me motivated. It kept me able to go without sleep. And I just worked and worked. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I worked really hard. I was doing roofing and sheetrocking and mechanical work and stuff. I didn't have an office job or waitress job or anything like that. I was working really hard jobs, running shingles up ladders and stripping roofs, and hauling sheetrock, and installing and removing transmissions, and whatever I could do to make the big bucks. That's where I went, because I figured, well, if I could make more money, then I wouldn't have to work so hard. But I was still working long hours, and I was still doing a whole bunch of stuff. But the only thing that enabled me to do that was the adrenaline. And I was 33 years old, married for the third time, and I had been neglecting myself. I had been working so much to support my kids and pay the bills and all that stuff, and I really hadn't thought about myself that much. So I thought, well, for a present to myself, I would make a doctor's appointment on my birthday. I would go in and I would have all that tests done that people are supposed to have, women are supposed to have every year, because I hadn't had them for a long time. And a couple weeks later, I get a phone call from the doctor's office saying that you have to come in. And I was thinking, man, this can't be good, So I went in, and the doctor sat me down and explained to me that I had cancer. And oh my, was I scared. I was scared all over again. I had sole custody of my kids, and they didn't have anywhere to go. There was nobody I knew that could take my kids if something happened to me. I was scared, really scared. And so, that adrenaline starts again, and you're in a panic, and you live kind of in a panic. And I went through some really dark and lonely times. And right after I found out I had cancer, the guy that I had just married a couple of months before that told me, well, when the doctor says that you're able to go back to work, I want you out of here, because I didn't marry you because I loved you. I just married you for a joke. I'm like, what? I mean, I was devastated all around, lost completely. Here I thought I had found somebody that actually cared for me. He married me for a joke. And that's what he told me to my face. Married you for a joke. And it was devastating. And so much of that adrenaline, it was just rushing through my body. I was panicked and scared, and I didn't know what to do. I wrote out a will the best I could on my own, and I put it away, so that if something did happen to me, that somebody would know what to do with my children, and what I didn't want done with them, and what I wanted done with them, and all that. And I felt so bad. I think about it now. But during those times, I had to let go of everything. There was no control left into my life. I had no control over what was going to happen, what was going to happen to my kids. And I did a lot of praying. And God knew everything that was going on. And I just begged for him to help me. Well, I went in and I had my cancer surgery. The doctors were hopeful. They said they think they got it all out. And I spent the next 3 years going in routinely, very routinely, and having weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, every 3 months, on and on for 3 years before they declared me cancer-free. And thankfully, I didn't have to go through chemo and everything. I was real happy. I was joyful about that. But during that time, I had to give up everything. I had to quit fighting. I had to quit fighting. I had to let people I didn't know help. I had to let people that were good to me, which I didn't want things from people. I tried to avoid that. I didn't want to burden people with me and my children and all that. Didn't want to burden them. I wanted to know that I did it on my own. But that's not what people are. People have to have other people in their life. You have to have people help you. You have to have people support you. You have to have encouragement from other people. You need people. You can't go around thinking that you don't. I'm okay by myself. I can do it on my own. All of that. That's okay in a book, but in real life it doesn't work that way. There were other times in my life where I was so sick that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't feed my family. I couldn't do anything, and I got by on the kindness of others, the kindness of people in the so-called world that I grew up thinking that were out to get me. Those were the people that helped. Those were the people that got me through everything. Those were the people who helped watch my children. And I was so grateful for them. I was so grateful that God let me live. That I wasn't going to leave my children without family at all in this world. But there's so much to be thankful for. There's so much to appreciate other people for. Even if they have different views than you, even if they have different ideas than you, we're all people. We're all the same. No matter the color of our skin, where we live, what religion we are, what we choose, or anything like that, we're all people and we all need each other. And we need to be kind to each other and love one another. That's the most important thing. That was the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us, was love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say that you should only love people that share your religion, or you should only love people that think like you do, or like that are the same color as you. Love your neighbor as yourself. No matter where you are or what you're doing, love one another. It's the greatest thing you could do. But I encourage everybody, when things are bad and you feel bad, let people help. Allow people to help. Love them for helping. They do it out of love and compassion for their neighbors, and we can all get along, and we can all do things for each other. If they think differently or do things differently, they're allowed that. Everyone is. Not everybody thinks the same way as me, but the difference in us the differences between everybody is what makes it a wonderful place. And if everybody was exactly the same, we wouldn't know different things. You know, some people are better at nursing, some people are better at math, some people are better at inventing, some people are better in other things. And no matter what you're good in, you contribute that to the group of people you surround yourself with, your neighbors and your family and everything. You're just one of the pieces that fit together to make the world go around. It really bothers me to see people fighting and arguing and not getting along, because there's real no reason for that. There's not. You know, we're supposed to forgive people that do us wrong. Colossians is a really good book in the Bible for understanding how we're supposed to live our life. And it says that we're supposed to freely forgive because Jesus freely forgave us. And that we're supposed to be kind to each other, love each other. And that's what's going to make us a good community. But please, allow other people to be different. Allow people to help. Allow people to share their opinions. Just because it's not your opinion, and it doesn't mean that you have to do what they say, but you should at least consider what they say, because it doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean you're wrong. You know, step back, look, reflect, and see if what they say, if there's any value in it. There's so many good people in the world, so many good people. Watchtower has taken and destroyed egos and destroyed people emotionally and psychologically in ways that affect their lives forever. It affected mine for years. For years, I was afraid of everything. And like I say, I just had to let it go. Let it go. Because nothing mattered. Nothing. I just had to give up. Just gave up. And I said, God, I'm in your hands. What's going to happen is going to happen. And I trust you. You will know what's best, and you will provide for my kids if something happens to me. I trust you. And I let it go at that, because it's true. It's true. No matter what would have happened to me at that point in my life, I believe that my kids would have been okay. One way or the other. Just because of the kindness of people in the world, they'd be okay. I gave them a good foundation at that point, and I had taught them some important things, and I felt, well, they'll be okay. They'll be alright. And I trusted God to do what He should. And it all came out good in the end. It like I say, it was years before I found out that I wasn't going to die. You know, I was so relieved. But I've been sick since then. You know, I'm not real healthy now. I worked my butt off. I wore my body out. I'm crippled and can't do what I used to do and all that. But, you know, I trust that God knows what He's doing. He places people in your life for a reason. If there's people around that you don't really agree with, well, maybe you should listen to what they say. Don't hate them, you know. But there's so many arguments over nothing and misunderstandings over just frivolous things, and when it all boils down to it, we all need each other. We really do. You can't get by in the world totally on your own, unhelped by anybody, anywhere. There comes a time when you need to rely on somebody and just trust that they'll take care of things for you. I've had to do that several times. it's made me real humble and appreciative and thankful and you name it. And I can't stress enough, just be kind. If you treat people the way you want to be treated, it causes a ripple effect. And it all comes back to you. All the anger and hatred you put out will come back to you. All the kindness and love that you put out will come back to you. So what you measure out is measured back to you. So, what do you want in return? What do you seek? What do you want? But anyway, I don't know if any of this helped anybody. I just had some things on my mind, things that just tearing me up about people not getting along and all that. And it's like, man, we need each other. We really do. We need others in our lives. Can't do it by yourself. Oh well, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.